Hello, 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 and welcome to Couch Chats with Corey and Courtney.
Hello,
I'm Corey,
I'm
and
Courtney.
today on the show we have our really good friend Julie Ewing. Hello, Julie. How are you? How you been doing during all of this craziness right now?
Well, it has been crazy. The good thing is I have, as you're about to hear, my grandpup is with me. And
Mmm.
boys are here, and so that's nice because we've been empty nesters for a few years now. And so we went from, like maybe eating cereal for dinner every once in a while or not eating at all to feeding the troops, which I love. Right.
And you are such a mama bear, so you love probably having all of those people at home with you, right?
I love it. I do.
Yeah. Were you supposed to still be in Florida right now, or did you come home from Florida? Yeah.
We came home from Florida.
Yeah.
Right before it all happened. Actually, I was at Disney the day before it closed.
I know.
I came home from Florida and was in quarantine for 2 weeks. So, and we came home early from Florida because my husband Paul was supposed to have back surgery. So we're waiting for that to happen. That goes in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So that is still happening in 2 weeks, you said? Yeah. Awesome. Has he been in a lot of pain? Like, does he need that surgery?
Bad.
Yeah.
Like, have back surgery until you can't move. And I mean, he's to the point where he can't move.
Oh, no.
That's horrible. When you were in Florida, though, you were there for the Super Bowl, I believe. Is that correct?
Well, we were there, and we're season ticket holders for over 30 years. And so in the fall, we decided that if we went, which we thought we were going to go, that we would sell our postseason tickets and put them towards Super Bowl tickets because we winter in Naples, which is just like an hour away from Miami.
Yeah.
Right.
So we wouldn't have to go to the hotel or fly in or anything. We could just go in for the day.
That's cool. So, and you were just able to like buy tickets because typically, so many of those tickets are like promised to different organizations or whatever. How were you guys able to land those tickets?
Well, we got them through the NFL, and at the time, my husband didn't know that he had a broken back. He thought they were saying he had ALS. And so they were doing all this testing. Sorry, guys.
Hi, puppy.
Well, friend.
Wanted part of the action.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, he really thought, this is it. I could not be next year. So we blew the wad. So we were kind of the beneficiaries of that. And then getting to find out that he really just had a broken back was like, yay, just a broken back.
Yeah, we can deal with that. We can totally deal with that. Was that like experience incredible, for our listeners or whatever?
It was beyond amazing. It was so surreal. It was one of those experiences where you're just so shocked. Just bizarre thing because of where our seats were and everything. We were by a bunch of Floyd Mayweather was right up above us with a big stack of money. I went to go get a drink at one point, and I walk in, and I don't even know the guy's name, but he plays Jesse on Breaking Bad.
Aaron Paul. Yeah.
I was right behind him, and all these people were trying to take pictures with him and stuff, and he just kind of leaned into his friend and said, I just want to go drink my mezcal.
Right.
Bottle of mezcal. And so the man just wants to drink mezcal.
A man wants to drink his mezcal, right.
I just took his arm and walked him down the path, and he hugged and said thank you, and it was just like surreal things like that.
Yeah. What was that energy like right after it happened? Was that room just full of awesomeness? Yeah.
It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. And catching like confetti and saving everything, and
Right. I mean, I was reading like an article yesterday about everything that sort of has, happened in 2020. All of the focus is obviously on the pandemic as it is, but how like the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, Australia was on fire, all of those things. And but I love that the Chiefs were like the first thing that was listed is that after all of those years, they finally won. And then a pandemic started. So maybe all of those like wishes to God or something, please, I'll do anything. We might need to take that.
Reel those back in, everybody.
So I always kind of like to start. I wanted to get the Chiefs thing out of the way just because I was super interested and I didn't get to ask you about that. So how do we know each other from your kind of perspective? You know, what is our history with each other in the Kouch?
Well, our history is we met really, really, really during Thoroughly Modern Millie at the barn. But I know that you had done shows at the park and stuff before with Kevin, and so we kind of knew each other through that. And I think you did one with Phil Keenan too, didn't you?
I have not worked yet with Phil Keenan, but I would love to get inside of that brain just for a minute. Yeah. You were supposed to have maybe directed a musical or two this coming year that you don't maybe get to direct anymore. You were sort of, Facebook famous for a second, during that conversation a couple of days ago, but just kind of like, I don't know if I know what the difference is really between being in a gym or being in a grocery store and being on stage. Like, it all kind of seems like the same to me in some ways. It's crazy.
Well, we had read all these articles because I was supposed to direct a musical this fall for Octa, and they hadn't announced their season yet. And so I sent them all the information that I had been reading on that came out in the LA Times. And then there, I think it was San Francisco's maybe Gay Men's Chorus put out a whole thing on what their procedures were going to be and everything, and all the stuff on choir singing. Well, the Octa stage is really small, and the smallest I could go with a cast for this particular show is 14 people. Well,
and I was auditioning for that show. Like, it had not been announced yet, but I was coming for that show. I just want you to know.
It'll be done again.
I know.
It's a really awesome concept that I have, and I wanted to include some kids from the School for the Deaf. So you throw that in there, and you're like, how do you, you don't really want to change your concept, but how do you say, hey, kids, come be part of this pandemic show?
Right. And if any of them like red lips or anything, and you had a mask cover it, like you couldn't do that, right?
Exactly. So,
do you know if those are slated to move to a different time, both your summer show at the park and your Octa show, or has there not really been any discussions on that yet?
There's been discussions on all of it. The park would really like to do Newsies next summer, but it's rights depending.
Yeah.
So they've got to get the rights again. And Octa, Octa, I love working at Octa because they ask you to submit shows that you're interested in, and as a director, that's great because then I can submit what I'm passionate about, what I want to do, what I have a real clear vision for, versus like, oh, I want to work this year. Let's see what's on the schedule at every theater and see what piques my interest, or go in and kind of BS your way through like, I really want to direct this show that I could care less about.
But I just want to direct, so I'll just take that one. Yeah, I tend to try to only apply for those. It's probably mine. My phone goes off all the damn time, and I don't know how to turn it off on my Mac, so little things. But yeah, I just, that was also something that we were doing earlier this year, sitting in park auditions, and I just think about the thousands of people between the Chiefs Super Bowl and between the park auditions and all of these things, and that idea of being around all those people seems like not something I'm gonna do for a while. It's if they do Newsies next year, will you guys have to hold auditions like fully again? Is that like the idea, or are you able to sort of move cast over? Do you know?
Well, we're hoping that we can move cast over, but we haven't heard about that yet. So,
yeah.
I'm sure, we have people that probably can't do it depending on when it's at and everything. So it becomes difficult. And there's another director that has said that they'd like to recast. So I don't know. Not on
Hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I bet you I could guess which one. But yeah, I was just thinking about that whole idea because Courtney and I was going to be in Boys in the Band we were supposed to be in our first week of
rehearsal, yeah.
and we just moved that show, 365 days to next year, hoping that we can keep the same cast. Hopefully nothing really changes. And I feel like there's a couple of other theater companies that are at least trying to do that, at least seeing, can we honor the time that you came into audition, the casting time, our visions, all of those things, and just laterally move them to a new year. And I kind of feel like that's going to be, it's going to be one long eternal summer, because I think Billy Elliot finally postponed or whatever, and they've offered everyone their roles for next year too. So it's just this, we're all going to be like, I thought Newsies already happened, like, why is it still around?
Very lackluster season announcement. We're doing the same thing that we didn't get to do. Yeah.
I know. That'll be fun. So what do you do when you are not creating and making people's lives amazing through theater?
Well, one of the things that I'm really going to miss is I really love doing some training when I'm off. So I wanted to go do some intimacy training. I love that they're offering that now. And that's one thing I'm almost more upset about that than not getting to do that than my shows. So, because I just really think it's important to continue to learn and grow and add to my arsenal of what I can offer. And I just think that is a place that's lacking in so much theater. And I'm so glad that they're embracing that and really starting to train in that.
Yeah.
And yet, when can you be intimate, with someone?
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I think that that's part of the training too, is that you role play a lot of stuff. So they can't do that training right now because you can't really do that.
Right.
And you can't really even do it like virtually in some way where you're, put into situations, because you and I could think that we were comfortable doing it here, but actually having that next to you in some ways it just adjusts. There's no way to do that except side by side. Yeah. What have you been doing this week, Miss Perry? How's your little girl? Has she flown around anytime this week?
Not this week. We have put to rest the wicked truck for a little bit. We hit our pinnacle when we made it on to some good news. So I think it's only downhill from there. So now she's trying to figure out what her next version of kindness, because that's the only part she cares about, can happen. So she's thinking, I don't know if you guys have seen or if it's happening in your neighborhood, we have the pinwheel posse that's like covering people's yards in pinwheels, and then it's supposed to like pass on to the next person.
We have one that's down the street, like 3 houses down.
Yeah, we have one on our block, and so she's become obsessed with the notion of like, what can I put in people's yards that they won't know it's me, that I could, cover their lawns with. I believe right now the thought is paper flowers or fairies. We haven't settled on one yet. So yeah, she's in her brain thinking about it all. It was pretty crazy to wake up to that on Monday morning, and it's all very surreal. But
you love that you're fostering that in her.
It's interesting because it sounds very cliche and strange, but I think it's the opposite. She's fostering it in me, because I don't know that I could ever hope to be the spirit that she is in any way, shape, or form. It's like really weird that when people are like, "You're such an amazing parent for doing this," and I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing it or if she's making me do it.
You gave birth to her, so you get
Sure.
some. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And you're making it happen. I mean,
Yes.
there was a lot to say about. There are some parents would be like, "Oh, that's a clever idea, but let's watch Netflix."
Yes. Yeah, we're doing a lot of that too. Don't worry, I'm still thoroughly lazy on that front as well. Yeah, but it's been really fun.
It seems like the haters have all left, like I haven't really seen too many people being as maybe negative about that as they were a few weeks ago. So
yeah, that was a really weird portion of it that I unfortunately went down the rabbit hole of investigating why people, I'm like, why are you being this upset about something that's so basically pure? But I know that everybody copes in their own way, and I get it. I've been around tech people my entire life, so I get it. Sometimes it's a light bulb, sometimes it's a lamp, You can believe that I'm putting my child's, life in danger by lifting her less off the ground than her own bunk bed, but it's fine.
Well, I can speak on me. Obviously, I love her. I'm pretty fond of her. But you did definitely bring some joy and light to a lot of people during this time. So, as I always like to say, fuck those haters.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
yeah. Go ahead, Julie. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, we loved it. We watched it a lot in our house.
Good. Good. I'm glad.
Like, this is so awesome.
And honestly, like, kind of simple. Like, I don't mean to like downgrade, but we in theater all make magic happen, all the time in different ways, reveals and lighting cues and all of these things. And so for you and Alex to essentially do that, I mean, Alex is trained, he's a professional, that's your guys' equipment, that's your truck. I mean, you guys weren't going to put them in danger at all. So that was kind of my pushback on that is, why do these parents aren't doing this unsafely? Like, do some research about the Perry family if you really want to be a jerk about it, but.
Well, yeah, and again, like, Alex is a certified rigger and all of those things. If you think that he didn't also fly on that rig prior to putting her on it, and it was an interesting thing to watch, to try and pull him up in the middle of the shop. And the people, I mean, even just the basic things where they were like, that guy has on tennis shoes. And I'm like, well, they're steel-toe tennis shoes because he's that guy. But yeah, sure. Whatever you need to do to kill the joy, if that's how you're coping right now, then fine. I don't owe you anything. I know that she wasn't at risk, and what are you going to do? Turn me into, like, the police are going to do something? I mean, it's not, that's not the same as, real actual child endangerment, which lots of people are also dealing, I mean, like, I'm just like, there are bigger things to be concerned with right now, guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is what it is.
But I didn't see any of that. I'm curious what you guys are talking about, because I just saw the joy of it, and I saw someone who wanted to fly and bring flight to others doing their thing. Yes.
Yeah.
So, are you a Kansas City native, Julie, or where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Olathe.
Olathe. Yes. And what did you do when you were growing up? What schools did you go to? What activities were you involved in?
I was the first graduating class to go all 3 years at Olathe South.
Wow.
Sophomore year, and that was when we just had, junior high and high school.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was involved in theater there, and drill team and choir, and I actually, one of my reasons why I love working in Octa so much is I consider it my home theater, because I took my first acting classes there with Jan Connor, which is a big Kansas City name.
Yes.
Jan went from being my teacher to, we did Chicago together in the early 90s, and I was Velma and she was Mama.
Yeah.
And, she didn't have a car, so we carpooled every day together to rehearsal. And that's one of the things I love about community theater, is that she became my community. Mm-hmm. And during that show, and we were bonded for life, and I miss her dearly. Miss her very dearly. So.
I love that you have always been such like an advocate for the community theater, mentality, sort of in that way of really establishing. One of my really good friends is Mitch Simmons, who you obviously know and love a lot, and he always speaks so highly about little insider trading. So I love to direct too. Love to direct, and so whenever I talk to like stage managers, I love to be like, well, what is working? Like what is vibing? And he just always talks about your first step is establishing that family community from day one inside of your rehearsal room. And that is something I try to do as well. And so Mitch always just sort of talked about, I'm sure I annoyed him all the time, as a director, but he always talked about how he sort of loved playing with both you and me in that, because our first rule was we have to make this room a safe, fun place and for everyone, because there are people in that room who don't have family, and their community theater is their family. And that is why sometimes they go from show to show to show in community theater, because we are all they have. And so I'm always just really glad to hear that there are other directors out there that think that the family mentality of that is just as important sometimes as the art that is taking place in the room. So
Absolutely. And I don't know that I always did that, Corey. I know, before I had a family, I was more, let's get down to business kind of, let's get to our table reads and let's do this and let's do that. And, as I grew, I think I became a better director by being a parent, because I understood, I watched my son audition for things and not get it and be heartbroken. And that's different than you auditioning for something and not getting it and be heartbroken. To see someone you love be so crushed is a lot. And then I've seen my son audition for stuff and get it and thrive. And, and so I think that parenting really has made me a better director.
How did you sort of take some of those applications that you were telling yourself and apply that to your kid? Because I'm sure there are roles that you haven't received either. What was sort of your way of making that easier for your kid without kind of saying, there are sometimes you just don't get cast, kid,
Right. Well,
Yeah.
we did a lot of that because, he's in the business, he's equity now, and he's in New York, and, and he gets it. I mean, he's home now because of the pandemic, but we were on a walk the other day, and he was saying, I am so glad that I had some rejection in my life. He said, because there are people that get to the city and have been the big fish in every pond. We were really talking about colleges and his college choice. And, he had options. And I was saying, are you happy with what you did? And he said, yeah, because if I had gone to some of these other schools, I might have had some stuff handed to me.
Yeah.
Because just being there. And he said, I'm glad I didn't have it handed to me because I handled the city so much better.
Yeah.
And, and that's great to hear. But in our house when he was younger, I know that our knots have a 24-hour rule, but we had an hour rule. You got to whine and cry for an hour, and then you got ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay, ice cream. This is a roll we got. We're going for it.
That's awesome. Is he planning on going back at any time soon, or is he just kind of a waiting game?
Absolutely, he's going back. He actually has been submitting his second short film into festivals, and so far that's going really well.
Awesome.
So hopefully he'll have some festivals to go to this year in addition to auditioning.
Have you ever directed your kid?
I directed my kid once. He wanted to be directed by me, and not that he didn't want to be directed. He didn't want to appear to have gotten a role because I was the director.
Right.
So, but he was Lumiere for me in Beauty and the Beast. His senior year of high school. I said, come on, do one show with me. He'd be on stage with me. We've always said that we would like to play Jack and Jack's mother together. So,
would you say that's a dream role of yours still? Like, what are some of your bucket list roles that you haven't got to do?
Well, I'd like to do Jack's mother sometime. And I would really like to play Mrs. Mears sometime. So I think I would kind of kill it. So, dream roles. I don't know. I'd kind of like to be, there's grandmother roles that I'm looking at now that I like, I would love to be the grandmother someday in Billy Elliot. I think it's such a beautiful story, and she's just such a delightful character.
Well, maybe you'll get to do it next summer when they redo it at the J.
Hopefully I'm not at that age yet, but.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Well, now we get to go into like the question and answers portion of this, which is always so silly and fun. So what is your definition of real magic?
Definition of real magic. I think real magic is when something catches you completely off guard and brings you so much joy that you can't even put words to it.
When was the last time you felt real magic?
Probably the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that was intoxicating. Like, even if you didn't like football at all, you couldn't help but just jump on that bandwagon. So I can't imagine what that had to have been like for people who have been rooting for the Chiefs their entire life. And that was probably pretty awesome. Yeah,
it felt pretty amazing, and I don't do football in any way, shape, or form, but it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Today's YouTube is sponsored by Topo Chico Lime Water.
All right, so you are a new addition to the crayon box. What color are you and why?
Oh, a new um oh, I'm pretty in pink, maybe,
Mhm.
because I love 80s films and I love pink.
That
And
is a great answer, Julie. I love that. You should keep that. That's good. Yeah.
Hmm.
What is something you were told you could never do or do well that you have accomplished or are in the process of accomplishing?
ooh, told I could never. That's hard because I come from Olathe, Kansas, where we were told you can do anything.
Yeah.
I think that it's interesting. Every time I go to direct a new show, I think, oh my gosh, why did they hire me? I don't know what I'm doing. This is too much. And I think it's more that I tell myself some things
Mhm.
and people tell me some things. And then I have to kind of relax into it and, just start down the path, put together my schedule, put together my thoughts on design and then once I get rolling, I'm like, okay, yeah, I do know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm okay at this. I'll be okay.
Hmm.
But I think the self-talk to me is worse than what other people say to me.
Sure.
And I think you might be the first person who's really said that they were the ones who sort of, told them that they couldn't do something. That is very astute. So that is a good answer.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you are invisible for 24 hours. What do you do with your time?
Visible 24
And
hours.
travel isn't a thing. You can just be wherever you need to be.
Yeah, I think I would go into a rehearsal on Broadway,
Mm.
the rehearsal room, and just see maybe a Jerry Zaks rehearsal or something, and just see what happens in the room.
Yeah.
Or to see what you're doing too, to see maybe how similar your practices are and your morale and all of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to see how I sort of match in all different sort of professional things with what's happening. I
Mhm.
mean, obviously, I think I might be able to be a better president than our president, but I would still love to know what he thinks he's doing right in
Yeah.
some way. Like, just to kind of learn the other side of that, I think would be fascinating. So you woke up today and you look at yourself in the mirror. What's the piece of advice that you give yourself today? Not yesterday or tomorrow, but today.
That you do have something to offer on couch chats.
You do.
You're gonna talk to me about just silly old me. So,
Well,
and I did have to say, okay, do your hair, put on your makeup. You have something to offer.
everyone says that, and so to your point, to the answer just like 2 ago, like people are important. You are seen, you are appreciated, and so every single person that sits on our couch, even if it's here or there, like you deserve your half hour or your hour, of time where we just get to like concentrate on you and tell you how important that you are. And I think that was one of the coolest things that has sort of come out of this thing for almost now 2 years, right, Courtney? We're almost
Yeah.
2 years in this. Yeah. Is really, really, really like the amount of people that I have learned about. And I've known you for at least solidly, 5-6 years now. And there are still some things that I'm learning about you all the time. So you do have something to offer, even if you don't think you do.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Miss
All right.
Perry?
Okay, me. Let's see. Now I think this one is interesting. Now I think we've asked it on since we've been doing the Zoom meeting as opposed to the in-person couch. If you could travel 100 years into the future or 100 years into the past, which one would you choose and why?
I would choose the past because I could I think that I could see where we came from,
Hmm.
like where we're going better.
Hmm.
Although I don't know, the future would be interesting because you could influence the future if you knew some things. I'm
Hmm.
gonna change the answer. I'm gonna go the future. I'm gonna go the future so that because I think that we could influence anything that we're not right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same mentality both ways, right? Like you kind of think that had you go in the back, maybe you could affect maybe what our present is, to where if you go to the future, that's fun. If you could switch lives with someone for a day, who would it be?
Bernadette Peters, please. And I mean, just to have her arms at her age, just to know what that feels like.
Right.
You know,
That would be. She's exceptional. Have you been gracious enough to be able to see her perform? Gracious, lucky.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
And she came to Starlight, and I got to meet her.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Miss Perry, your last question.
Okay, let's see. So I used to ask this, and I have like my piece of paper is still sitting on the couch. What's one thing that movies or television made you think would be a much bigger deal in real life than it actually is?
I want to think this through because I'm such a movie person. I think having a lot of friends. I think in life, if you have one or two really close friends, and we've told that to our boys all along when they struggled in high school and junior high, we said, all you need is just one close friend. And they all do. They have one friend that has been, womb to tomb kind of buddies of theirs. And I just, think that is important. I think that popularity for me was like something that if you weren't popular, you weren't seen or you weren't anything. And I think that I've been letting go of that. Graham Fairley actually posted something about a year and a half ago where he said, it's not my job to care about what others think about me. Mm-hmm. And it struck me to my core, and that's resonated with me to the point that I actually called him and said, I need you to know that this has stuck with me, what you said, and it's informed who I am even now, well into my 50s, that I didn't realize that I was hanging on to what others think of me. It's just my only job is to live my truth and love those around me and to be kind. I don't have to, if I'm doing that, what do I care about what others think about me? Because, there's misinformation all over, just like what you were saying, Courtney, with, all of the haters on this beautiful act of flying. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I said that yesterday. I think I was just like, or 2 days ago or whatever, I was like, stop trying to convince people that you belong in their life, or something, because at some point, how much are you altering yourself to fit into their box of what you are supposed to be or what something is supposed to, I always give credit, and to quote, I know it's a quote, but it's definitely from Aida, fortune favors the brave. It is, you have to, if you are willing to be your true authentic self, then I think that's pretty good to go to bed with every night. Yeah, there's always room for improvement. We're humans. But in general, I have to agree with both Graham and you and whatever. Stop trying to be something that you're not, because all of those years and days you've wasted on worrying about what they think. And did it change? Did that actually, if you did adjust something, did you go back, or did you hold on to those adjustments just to appease that one person? So yeah, I think it is important, and I think that is hopefully maybe what some people are taking from this pandemic, since they are having to spend so much time self-reflecting, is I hope that they are prioritizing some of the things that are in their life and the people. And I was on a phone conversation a couple of days ago with someone who was like, I don't feel as stressed as I used to, and perhaps maybe the things that I was doing was making me ill and sick, and I need to really assess why I don't feel that way now. So, yeah. All right, my last two questions. Is there anything that you did not have the opportunity to say, words of advice? And normally this would be the time to advertise shows that you're working on, or pimp something. But yeah, anything that you would like to say to our watchers/listeners?
I would like to say that I love all of you putting your stuff out there on social media, that I'm loving seeing you find new joy in new ways, and to continue with that. Be brave, be bold, be kind, and do your art. Find a way to do your art, you know.
You got to do your art too, Julie. Make sure that you're doing something. Paint something, draw something, read something. Do it, you know.
I'm back to writing. So
Are you?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's part of my background. And actually, Riley and I have had a film that we've been wanting to write together forever, and now we're here. So
You both have a Riley. That's what
True.
has a Riley too.
I do.
Yeah, that's fun. And who would you like to hear from on the couch? Who do you think would be a great person to spend 35, 40 minutes talking with?
Who do I want to hear from on the couch? Well, I think you probably guys have covered all these people. Gosh.
I know, it's a fun one.
Have you guys talked to Alicia Watson?
Nope, she is on my short list too. I want to get her New York perspective and all of that. Yeah. And isn't that interesting to this point? When we ask someone to recommend someone, like Mitch is the one who recommended you, you know, like officially.
David Martin.
And David Martin, yeah. And so you are important, Julie. See, people think of you and say, I want to watch and listen to Julie for a half hour. So it is kind of awesome, you know, whenever you are kind of picking a name out of the ether, if you will, that evidently Alicia Watson means something to you because you thought of her, and that is kind of how you pass down that love on accident through our silly little podcast show.
She's had such a positive effect on the Kansas City theater scene, and then just her move on, and not at a young age, to go after those dreams, you know, a little later in life, and just say, hey, I can do this.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting for her. She needs to join the cast of Come From Away when they come back.
I love that show. Let's take our picture really quick.
All right. Everybody ready? Okay. All
right. Well, thank you so much, Julie, for being on the show. I loved every minute of this time together. Yeah.
Thank you. Me too. It was great to have something to do, to put pants on.
Yeah. All right. Well, tune in next week where we will have someone amazing.
Yeah.
Bye.